Okay, he is a contributing editor for Rolling Stone and co-host of Rolling Stone's podcast Useful Idiots. Matt Taibbi. Matt, how you doing? Hope your sequestering's going good.
I'm doing well, Bill. Thank you very
Good,
much.
okay.
Yourself? How's it going?
Oh, I love it here all by myself. Anyway, so I want to talk about the money. I was just chatting with Brett Stevens, and we were talking about the news today that GDP is going to contract by over 30% next quarter. Just crazy numbers. And of course, we've written a lot of checks so far, and you'd be a perfect one to talk about this. You wrote so eloquently about the bailouts in 2008. I was once talking to somebody who does not follow politics too closely, and I said, you know, Matt Taibbi, you should read his book. And he said, the vampire squid guy? So, so
I
what is
know
the
it's going to be written
vampire?
on my gravestone, unfortunately. But
Is
yeah,
is the
yeah,
vampire
absolutely.
squid back in play here? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's the basic conception of this bailout package is very similar to what they did in 2008. Obviously, there's a Main Street component to the rescue. They're giving away some money to actual human beings this time, but the significantly larger part of the rescue package, the roughly $4 trillion they're going to spend through the Fed, that's mostly all going to propping up the financial markets and Wall Street. And it's with the same basic concept they used last time, except more radical this time. They're doing, they're buying junk bonds instead of just mortgages this time as well. So it's bigger, but the same thing.
It always seems like it's trickled down. We never give money to people directly, and I guess you shouldn't expect anything different from people like Steve Mnuchin is, the Treasury Secretary, right? And he's in charge of the whole thing. And this is what I know about him. He's the guy who took his trophy wife to get a picture, a selfie with the money at Fort Knox. He's what they call him, the adult in the room, in the Trump administration. Are you confident
Yeah,
in a guy like that running a show this big?
yeah, you're absolutely right about it being a trickle down. That's the concept, right? Like, last time around we had all this pain after the financial crisis, where we had millions of people who were in foreclosure. We could have, with about $1.5 trillion paid off every subprime mortgage in existence, and basically solved the problem. But they instead spent about 10 times that bailing out Wall Street. And this time around, the concept is basically the same. Let's just throw a ton of money at the capital markets, and eventually it'll work its way down to regular people. But I'm not sure that's going to work, and it didn't.
It,
It didn't work terribly well last time.
it didn't even seem to work its way around to smaller companies.
Right.
The big problem with the small business bailout so far was that it went to big business. There was a corporate bailout of 500 billion, one of the bills, and I read, the Democrats say, well, we got oversight in there. It's one guy. His name is Bharat Ramamurthy. He must be busy. One guy to oversee $500 billion. Your
Yeah,
thoughts?
for a while he was the only person, and all he didn't even have an office. He just had an unverified Twitter account. And I actually DM'd him on Twitter, and I was like, did you get anything else yet? Do you have more than an office? Do you have supplies? And he says nope. He actually answered.
Wow.
They've since added Donna Shalala. She's also
Okay.
part of the oversight committee, but there really isn't anybody overseeing this amount of money. You have to be an absolute expert in this kind of stuff to even have a chance at catching the fraud that's going to happen here. I talked to the last bailout inspector, who said we should expect tens of billions of loss to fraud with these programs.
And why don't these? I get it. Why the mom and pop store needs money right away? Perhaps you're running on a small margin, a grocer or something. But why do these big companies? I mean, they don't have any rainy day fund. You're a billion, multi-billion-dollar companies. They got nothing in the kitty. They need something. They can't go a week.
Well, I think the real scandal here is the amount of money that these companies have spent on stock buybacks over the last, decade or so.
Uh huh.
Wall Street has flooded corporate America with easy money ever since the last bailout. And you take an industry like the airlines, and they've you know, the top four airlines have spent something like $50 billion in the last 8 years on stock buybacks, which is money that just went straight to their shareholders in the form of, you know, distributions. And that's money they don't have now for this very rainy day that they're in. So this enormous amount of money that we're pumping into all these companies and banks and financial companies, a lot of it is because the money's gone. It's been taken by the shareholders, and as soon as they had the opportunity to do so. And so I think that's something, if ordinary people understood that better, they'd be a lot more angry.